With President Putin sworn in for his fourth term and Dmitry Medvedev on track to stay prime minister, how much, if anything, will change for Russia's policy both at home and abroad? Let's bring in Paolo Von Schirach, president of the Global Policy Institute, a public policy research firm. Let's start with the United States. Another term here for President Putin. He's around for a while. How do you see Russia's relationship with the U.S. playing out, given this sort of personal relationship he has with Donald Trump?
Well, of course, the re-election of President Putin is no surprise. It was kind of baked in the cake, but the reality is that the relationship is not very good. I mean, to put it mildly. There are many irritants that have clouded the atmosphere. Of course, there is the whole issue of Ukraine, in which the United States, along with the European Union and others, has imposed sanctions on Russia to punish it for the annexation of Crimea, for the conflict in the Donbas region, and all that. Of course, there are significant divisions in terms of outlook and policies regarding Syria. Clearly, the United States and Russia find themselves on the opposite side of the divide. And I would say, last but not least, we have now the two nations have been bound by strategic arms limitation talks, which will soon expire. And there is no movement that I can see at the moment that it will be renewed and stabilized in some fashion. Now, this is kind of a dormant issue, which could be long-term destabilizing if the two countries don't get together to reaffirm limits on their strategic weapons. And if this becomes a new arms race, Putin has discussed in recent times new generation of weapons and other things that can be, put Russia on top, and Trump says, no, we are going to be number one. This is really dangerous stuff when we talk about nuclear weapons. And of course, last but not least, the potential aftermath of whatever the conclusion of the Mueller investigation is going to be here in the United States about the old and tried issue now of Russian meddling in the 2016 election. We haven't seen the end of that story yet, but I doubt that whatever the outcome is, it will be positive for the bilateral relations.
And, you mentioned Syria as one of the issues that they're going to have to interact, but there's also the Korean Peninsula,
Absolutely.
Depending on how far that goes, and as well as Iran. So when you talk about these other things that they really have to be at the table together for, how are they going to get along? Or is it going to depend on Russia's other relationships, perhaps with China, to kind of bring it all together?
Well, look, it would be a good idea if the United States, regardless of the irritants, which are numerous, would look at the fundamental issues in which potentially the United States and Russia can cooperate, and indeed to find some kind of common ground on maintaining a lid on the Iranian nuclear program, whatever the modality that would be a very good thing to do. Secondly, of course, you mentioned the Korean Peninsula. We have this impending summit between President Trump and Kim Jong-un. We have really no idea what to expect. Can Russia play some kind of a role in kind of encouraging stability and pushing for the denuclearization of the peninsula? I suppose so. But what's in it for them? In other words, can the United States entice Russia in being cooperative in consideration of all these other irritants? Needless to say, we've still got these sanctions that hurt the Russian economy, which, by the way, is not doing very well, owing to the still relatively low price of oil and difficulties that the Russians are encountering in different economic spheres. So this is not going to be easy, and it would require a little bit of ingenuity and pragmatism on the part of the Trump administration to engage this president who, as we know, is going to be there for another 6 years.
Very quickly, about 10 seconds left. What is the biggest challenge ahead for Putin?
The economy. He has to keep his people happy. And I'm not sure that he has the wherewithals in his, under his command to make that happen. Because again, Russia depends extremely heavily on the export and the revenue from hydrocarbons, oil and gas. Prices, while better than a year or two ago, are not what they used to be when the Russian economy was growing at 7 or 8%. So this is going to be a tough challenge.
All right, Paolo Von Schirach, always great to hear your insight. Thank you.